ridiculously expensive weapons cancelled or never used. Modern weapon systems are far from inexpensive, but the costs are often forgotten once the system performs well in combat situations. When a weapon system is developed but never deployed, it tends to waste a lot of money, often to the embarrassment of politicians and the people responsible for development. Here are 10 of the most expensive weapon systems that were cancelled or never used. Number 10 on the list is Multi-Mission Effects Vehicle. Cost $100 million. The Multi-Mission Effects Vehicle, MMEV, was to be Canada's answer to both anti-tank and surface-to-air defensive technology on board an 8x8-wheeled LAV-3 system used for remote command and control, C2. The MEV program was implemented in 2005 at a projected cost of $750 million Canadian dollars but was cancelled just 2 years later. The reason for cancellation was the diversity of the vehicle. The destruction of an operational C2 anti-air anti-tank vehicle on the battlefield would reduce the capabilities of the ground forces by 3 to 1. Number 9 on the list is XM2001 Objective Individual Combat Weapon. Cost $100 million. The XM2001 Objective Individual Combat Weapon was a series of prototype weapons designed to give the warfighter on the ground better control over their small arms munitions. The weapon was capable of firing a 20 mm high explosive projectile capable of programmable airburst, meaning the soldiers who fired the weapon could program the shell to explode at a specific distance and altitude. The program began development in the 1990s and was scrapped in October 2005 due to a per weapon cost of $35,000. The total for research and development of the XM2001 topped $100 million before cancellation, but the spirit of the design may see the battlefield with the possible deployment of the XM25. Number 8 on the list is B-70 Valkyrie. Costs $1.5 billion. By the late 1950s, the United States Air Force Strategic Air Command was on the hunt for a new strategic bomber that was capable of replacing the B-52. The Valkyrie would have been armed with nuclear bombs and used for deep penetration missions. Conceptually, the B-70 was an invulnerable aircraft due to its ability to operate above 21,000 meters, 70,000 feet, at a speed of Mach 3+, but the invention of surface-to-air missiles, SAM, rendered this invulnerability obsolete before it was fielded. To combat this, the aircraft was reimagined to fly at much lower altitudes to avoid the line of sight of fired SAM''S. As the decade came to an end, the development and implementation of intercontinental ballistic missiles replaced the aging strategic bomber fleet and the B-70 was no longer needed. By the time the program was concluded in 1961, the U.S. Air Force had spent $1.5 billion, which would have equaled approximately $12 billion in 2015. Number 7 on the list is A-12 Avenger II. Cost $2.95 billion. The A-12 Avenger II was a planned all-weather, carrier-based stealth bomber meant to replace the aging A-6 Intruder for the United States Navy and Marine Corps. The design concept was that of a single wing, similar to the B-2 stealth bomber, but meant for strategic naval operations. Begun in 1990, the program was cut in 1991 before the entire cost of at least $57 billion was spent by Defense Secretary Dick Cheney. At termination, the U.S. had already paid almost $3 billion of the $4.8 billion fixed-price contract, but no planes had been built. So the United States Department of Defense sued the contractors for a return of the costs. A settlement was finally reached in January 2014, which returned $400 million to the United States. Number 6 on the list is Expeditionary Fighting Vehicle. Cost $3 billion. The Expeditionary Fighting Vehicle, EFV, was an amphibious assault vehicle developed for the United States Marine Corps to replace the aging assault amphibious vehicle, which had been in service since 1972. The EFV was meant to rival the mobility and maneuverability of the M1 Abrams main battle tank system but operate at sea and on land as a pivotal assault vehicle. The program was expected to cost $15 billion, but it was cancelled in 2011 by Secretary of Defense Robert Gates as a result of the Marine Corps request to extend the life of the Marine personnel carrier and amphibious combat vehicle. The costs of the vehicle rose through R&D, which forced the Corps to reduce its initial order from 1,013 vehicles to 573. This was one of the primary reasons the program was eventually cancelled at a total cost of $3 billion. Number 5 on the list is YAL-1 Airborne Laser. Cost $5 billion. The Boeing YAL-1 Airborne Laser testbed was a weapon system designed to be mounted on a Boeing 747-400F. The laser was a megawatt-class chemical oxygen iodine laser capable of intercepting and destroying missiles while in flight. The YAL-1 was designed to intercept and destroy tactical ballistic missiles while they remained in the boost phase, prior to reaching peak velocity. At a cost of $1.5 billion to build and $100 million per year to maintain each system, the concept was simply not workable. The program was cut in 2011 after 16 years of development at a total cost of $5 billion. Number 4 on the list is RAH-66 Comanche. Cost $7 billion. The RAH-66 Comanche stealth helicopter was planned to be a replacement for existing helicopters in the U.S. Army inventory. Initial plans to purchase 650 helicopters were scrapped in 2004 when the Army cancelled all funding of research, development, and production. The cancellation came as a result of cost overruns and safety feature concerns due to advancing surface-to-air defense technology. Through the course of the project's development from 1991 until its cancellation in 2004, the Army spent approximately $6.9 billion. The remaining funds were reallocated to refurbishing and updating the Army's existing inventory, which they had initially hoped to avoid through the development of the Comanche. Number 3 on the list is XM2001 Crusader. Cost $11 billion. The XM2001 Crusader was conceptualized as the United States Army's next-generation self-propelled howitzer but was cancelled 6 years prior to deployment by Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld in 2002. The Crusader was meant to replace the aging Paladin system, which had been in the field since the 1960s as a more maneuverable and precise gun. The program began in 1995 and lasted until it was cancelled in 2002, having produced one prototype at a total cost of $11 billion. The only completed XM2001 can be seen as a showpiece at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Number 2 on the list is Future Combat Systems. Cost $18.1 billion. Between 2003 and 2009, the United States Army began a modernization program that envisioned faster, more maneuverable brigades with smaller vehicles capable of inserting into a combat zone on very short notice all over the world. The program was called Future Combat Systems, FCS, and it was projected to cost a total of $340 billion by the time it was implemented. FCS was never fielded, and it failed to meet deadlines before Secretary of Defense Robert Gates called for a restructure and final cancellation of the program in 2009. The Department of Defense spent more than $18 billion on FCS during the program's 6-year development. On number 1 we have Trident Missile Program. Cost $40 billion. We can all breathe a sigh of relief that this weapon system has never been used, although it costs a great deal of money to develop and maintain. The various forms of the Trident missile were developed as submarine-launched ballistic missiles, capable of carrying multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, also known as nuclear warheads. Trident missiles are carried by the US Navy as well as the UK's Royal Navy at a total estimated cost of $40 billion in 2011, with an estimated cost of $70 million per missile. The Trident missile program has been in operation and development since 1979 and is planned to remain in service until 2042. The estimated total program cost is $170.2 billion, but with any luck, the missiles will never be used. That's all for today. If you have enjoyed this video, show your love and respect on my channel by pressing a like, share and subscribe button to stay updated for new videos. Goodbye. Bye.